Okay, so we know we have defined polarization. So what is depolarization? Okay, so depolarization is a process by which a charged cell or organism, so a cell, a tissue or organism, right, any living thing, returns from a charged state to a neutral state, right? And this is a passive process. So basically, polarization can be looked at in this way, right? Guy here pushing the boulder up the hill. This requires energy, right? So it requires energy to get up here. Once you're up here, the boulder is charged, right? So once the boulder is released, it will naturally fall to the bottom of the hill. So basically, this is the process of polarization, and this is analogous also to depolarization. All right. So in um, electrically active tissue like nerves or cardiac tissue, after polarization has taken place using active transport such as the sodium potassium ATPase, right? What happens is for depolarization to occur, so I'm not going to get too complicated in the physiology, but for depolarization to occur, membrane channels have to be activated that allow the ions now to redistribute as normally. So basically, imagine you have something stopping this boulder right here from falling down, right? These would be the ion channels. So once you remove this blockage, hold on, give me a sec. Yeah, sorry about that. So once you remove this blockage, the boulder is free to depolarize, so to speak. All right, so that's basically the concept of depolarization. All right, so then um, the next thing I would want to speak about or define would be would be what is a vector. All right, so that's number 4. All right, so a vector is any, let me see, a vector is, and I don't want to say substance, it is anything that has both magnitude and direction. Okay, all right. So vectors have magnitude, right, and direction, and it's typically like a force, right? Typically it's a force, but my physics is a little rusty, but I don't think it's limited only to forces, right? So vectors are essentially affected also not only by how how high the value is, but the direction in which the value goes. That's essentially what a vector is, right? So the electrocardiogram essentially is a vector analysis, right? So what do we mean by that? Essentially, the electrical vector, so let us say, I don't know, you have a little chunk of tissue, all right? The electrical vector, let us say, if it goes this way, and this is a simplification, right? If the electrical vector goes that way, and I have, and let us simplify it, I have a sensor, so just one electrode to pick up that vector right here and put it on the graph. What we're saying is this graph, right, let's just say that, will look different than if I put the electrode here. The graph may, for example, look something like this, right? So essentially, in the analysis of the electrocardiogram, the direction in which the electrical vectors go makes a difference in how they will look on the ECG and how you'll be required to interpret them, right? So that's that basic concept. Okay. All right. Further definitions. All right. So what is number 5 now? What is an electrode? Right? And then let's put it right next to it. What is a lead? Okay. So an electrode, right, is an electrical sensor which we place on the patient's body, which is able to detect electrical impulses, right? So an example of electrodes, right, which, well, much of you may have seen, but I'm not going to assume that you're all exposed to clinical practice as yet. But let us say you have a cardiac monitor. You have a right arm electrode, a left arm electrode, right leg, left leg, and you have a electrode over the heart itself, right? So each of these sensors has the capacity to pick up electrical impulses, right? And so those are termed electrodes. Now, this is different and frequently confused with the concept of a lead. So, simply put, right? Let me type this one out. All right. Okay. A little typo below. I'm okay with that. Okay. So, a lead is a combination of at least 2 electrodes. All right, so a lead is a combination of at least 2 electrodes, right? And what else would I add to this? Leads are created artificially inside the computer of the ECG machine. So what am I talking about, right? What do I mean by that? The leads are created artificially inside the computer of the ECG machine. All right, going back to a diagram. For example, right? Let's go back to our stickman. I'm not an artist, guys. My bad. All right, stick guy, right? He has an electrode here, 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 right? On your cardiac monitor, it will combine the right arm electrode and the left arm electrode to form lead 1. If you get what I'm saying. So you don't put leads on a patient, you put electrodes on a patient. But the machines are designed to combine the various leads, right? You using the how they are programmed, right? So they combine the various electrodes to give you lead outputs, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So all you have to do is place the various electrodes, and the computer will combine it in various ways to get the leads that you need. Okay, so that's the definition of leads.